Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is the place where leadership, well-being, and wisdom meet so that we can reimagine the world and redesign it from the inside out, starting with our own voices, our own choices, and the places that we most easily can influence and guide. My name is Arylo, and I am your host. For those of you who are new here, welcome. And for those that have been around a while, welcome back. And we are about to dive into today an episode I do every January called Feminine Wisdom for the Year Ahead. And I don't exactly always know when this is going to happen, other than I know it will happen sometime in January. And I'm always sitting for a couple weeks to really listen into what is the wisdom that you and I could really benefit from as we head into this next cycle. So one thing that we know when it comes to working in the feminine and letting the feminine lead is that we work in cycles. Instead of hard stops and hard starts, it's this calendar year, it's this month, it's this day, it's Christmas Day. And if you missed it, too bad. See you next year. It doesn't work like that in nature. And in the feminine, we work in rhythm and we work in cycles, which is so good for the nervous system, so good for pacing, so good for creating a whole life, and so good for actually getting out of the banana world and out of the swirl and taking an exhale to see what really matters to focus on, to see what's in the highest good for you, for those you love and guide, for what you care about on the planet. And as for any of you out there that influence teams or organizations or others, for you to be a calm-centered guide in your leadership with others. So my role and my job is to listen and tune into the patterns that I'm seeing, which is another feminine power. Feminine power, one of the core pieces of intuition, the sixth kind of intuition, is called pattern overview. And it's your ability to see patterns that are taking place within yourself, within others, within the greater context, see the similarities, kind of stitch them together to find wisdom within it. As you start to see the connections and how the things connect, you're like, oh. This is one of my primary channels of intuition. It may be one of yours too, or it may be not. We have all 6 channels of intuition, but we tend to have ones that are stronger and ones that are weaker. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to share with you just kind of an overview meta of how to think about this year. Every cycle is different. We're in a different place on the planet. We're in a different place in space and time. So I use a couple different systems and get informed by a couple different wisdom systems. And so I'll share some kind of the highlights to be thinking about. And then we're going to break it down into three areas so that you can really kind of focus on these points and use them to frame the year ahead. It's kind of like, I always say, it's kind of a little bit like being Bilbo Baggins, from The Hobbit or from The Lord of the Rings. Like, you don't know what's going to happen on this adventure you've just set off on, but you got to go, and you're going anyway, and you're already on the horse, or you're already in whatever vehicle is taking you. So isn't it wise to, kind of have some core pieces to remember as you're going through? Because what's going to happen is the world's going to go, it's going to wobble. Things are going to shift. Things are going to speed up. Things are going to do all kinds of things that we have no control over. So what a wise person does, where wisdom, well-being, and leadership meet, is we actually slow it down and tune into what are, the handful of things I want to remember and apply as I move forward. And so today's a little bit like what I like to call, my friends and I call wise woman teas or wise woman coffees, and again, feminine power. And I'm going to start here a little bit too about what feminine power is and why this is called feminine power. Is not about being necessarily a woman biologically. But it is about the feminine, which exists in all of us. And wise woman coffees or wise person coffees, I have them with all kinds of people. Wise being powwows is a moment for us to settle in, kind of like we were having coffee together. So, pour yourself some coffee, pour yourself some tea, and let's pause on that kind of outside world so we can really tune in to this in-between world. In the wisdom traditions, we talk about living in between the worlds, being both in the mystical, quantum, mystery universe, things that no one can describe, but we're all part of, and also in the realm of the mundane and matter and rational and logical. And so let me give a little framing around the feminine first, but I'm gonna invite you to, like, for sure, don't multitask and really, just kind of sit in with me today. I had a gift this morning. I was cleaning my office and just kind of getting things reset up, and I've been going through my paperwork and releasing papers from last year around all the things of my, my dreams and my intentions and my work in the world that are just kind of holding space, just clutter. And so I was doing all that yesterday. I was straightening my office, and then my phone rang. And it was one of my primary, I called them my spiritual mentor mothers. I have two primary teachers, one from the sacred feminine lineage and one from the earth wisdom lineage. And it was my earth wisdom teacher who I met when I was 33, so almost 2 decades ago. And she was calling because I'll be seeing her for a retreat in June this year. And she was calling to connect with me and just like, do you have time to string the beads? I was thinking of you this morning. And stringing the beads means just kind of like sitting down and having, a wise being coffee or a wise being tea, or sometimes I guess you could have wise being wines. Those are okay too. And it was, I'm like, absolutely. And like, she's like, I was feeling you this morning. And I'm like, that's so interesting because I was meditating and doing my presencing practice this morning. And I was just really feeling and sensing into, what's my part this year? And how can I both gather, like we're gathering right now, virtually, wherever you're at, like we're connected for sure. Like there's energy connections 100% between us. So like I always say, Feminine Power Time is not just a podcast, it's the format, but it's a place and a space that we meet at. And so this is this place in between the worlds that gives us a space to just tune in deeply to ourselves and also hear the patterns between us, which was what happened with Pele and I as we both shared and then saw the patterns that were coming up. And she gave me a gift of something that, a book that she's been reading, and I gave her a gift, which were things that have been in our field for a long time. And it was like, oh, that's wisdom. That's like, I'm like, oh, that book 2 people have mentioned to me and I've known about it for 15 years. And she's like, wow, that system that you've been working with, I've known about that since 2009 and it keeps coming up. So that's what happens when we engage in the co-creative process of co-creating and conversating. And that's what these kinds of conversations and tune-ins are. So when you come to Feminine Power Time, it's not just about listening to try to find something, an answer in your head or your mind, or, even just to accumulate more knowledge, although that will absolutely happen. It's really about tapping into and tuning into wisdom and your heart wisdom and your intuition and all of the knowledge that's within you, who you are, who you were born to be, what your design is. I think of us all like we're like time capsules that are meant to go off at different times and different things open and different things appear that we would never see with our mind. And that's what feminine power is about. The reason I named this podcast Feminine Power Time is not because it's just for women. It's not. It's because in our world that we've been living in, and it kind of depends on the cycle, that you'll look at. Some people would say it's 11,500 years if you're following the yogic time frame of 26,000 years. Some people would take it back 5,000 years. Some people would take it back to, the development of the Roman Empire and that kind of taking over the consciousness of the planet. Some people would take it back 2,000 years to the age of Pisces and what that all means. And regardless of where you want to start that cycle is, one thing that's very true about those cycles is kind of the feminine energy. The feminine energy basically has been dismissed and discounted and poo-pooed and woo-wooed and shoo-shooed and, way worse than that. And so most of us on the planet, we've been alive for generations and generations that have tried to and have successfully stamped out the validity of spirit and overtaken it with structures that either are super religious or super rational. We have the heart has been, kind of relegated. You hear about body, mind, and spirit. Like, where's the heart? You say the human mind will create all kinds of good things that will just be bad for humanity. But without the heart, which is the feminine, we don't consider the impact on people and planet. And so the feminine is needed more than ever. But if you don't have language for something, you can't even see it. You can't understand it. You can't wield its power. If you don't have image and art and visualization of what it is, then you also can't bring it forth. And if it's not practical in our earthly existence, and we don't know how to apply it, it's just the thing that we do on Sunday, or it's just the thing when we go to yoga class. And that's not where we're at in the world right now. So what we're doing here is we're giving language to it. We're giving image to it. We're awakening this energy to find its place of wholeness and pull over all the distortions that we've been imprinted with for our whole lives and for generations that have been passed down from mothers and fathers and grandmothers and fathers. Like, it goes back so far, so that you and I can remove these imprints that are rooted in scarcity and fear and control and greed and recklessness and power over, right? Like big, significant stuff. But if you and I just sit around all day and be like, scarcity, fear, greed, power over, dominating, all of that stuff, we'll just short circuit, pull the freaking covers over our head, like, I can't get out. Like, that's like too much for all of us, right? Oh my God, like, forget about it. Like, I'm just going to play video games for the next 40 years while I'm on the planet, right? No, we don't want it. We don't want to do that. We actually need each other as we go through this time. And we need these pieces that we're going to talk about today. And we need the feminine. And the good news is, you all, is that, today we're going to bring light. We're bringing lightness to this, but also significance to it. And there's two great wisdom teachings that give me so much hope and so much about momentum and where we're going, even though I know it's going to be rocky. So we are, in fact, we're still in this age of Aquarius, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Wisdom traditions say that the moving of an age from one age to another, which is what we're in, can take anywhere from 100. The first part is 100 years. And then there's, some people say 500 years. So we're still in the first 100 years. Now, don't despair, you all, because where we're going, this year is going to be a year of growth. And I'm going to talk about that next. But kind of think of it, the two wisdom teachings are this, that can give us hope and faith. The momentum of the ages is behind us. So what that means is, if you think about it from a yogic wisdom perspective, and you think of a circle as a cycle of time, and a cycle of time is 26,000 years, we've already hit bottom. We hit bottom in the dark ages between 1500 and 1700. We just started moving out of the darkest place when the Industrial Revolution happened. And so what got created in the Industrial Revolution was needed to create momentum to move us forward, but it also held the consciousness of that deep, dark, shadowy stuff, which also exists within each of us. Because again, we are, in some ways, we're imprinted by the culture, the family, the systems that we've grown up in, and our families and our systems have, generations of consciousness in them. So many of us that are alive at this time, we are here to actually shift that, to say heck no to the no. We are not just going to follow that path for whatever it is, get old, get sick, retire and die, or, just settle for whatever you have and whatever your imprinting pieces might be that you might be breaking through. We're actually embracing our co-creative power, which is the feminine, because the feminine is the creative power. Productivity is the masculine power. Together, they're amazing. But if you just have productivity, you got TikTok robot life, which is be born, go to school, make a family, buy a house, buy a bigger house, work to put your kids through school, and then retire, and then you die from all the stress early, and you don't even get to enjoy and savor your life. I call that the escalator to death. We're not going to do that. It's not what we do here. So the good news is that we're on the upswing. So we're at the we're past the bottom of the circle, but we're the momentum. So if you think of a circle, if you put your finger out and you move it around, it's it's coming up. That means there's all this momentum coming up that is behind us, almost like the wind beneath our wings. So that's number one to think about. for this year ahead. And then number 2, it's kind of like a faith rope. It's like, okay, when things get rocky, I can remember what Christina and we all talked about was the momentum of the ages is behind us. 2 is, and Pele shared this with me today, in the Hopi tradition, they talk about, and the prophecy is around about moving into 1,000 years of peace. So just take a breath. Just imagine that for a moment. Moving into 1,000 years of peace. Sometimes it's referred to as the golden age in other traditions. So this, again, is like seeing the patterns between things. There's all these different prophecies around the eagle and the condor coming together, the Western world and the Eastern world, the productivity and the creativity, the mind and the heart, spirit and matter. That's where we're at right now. And why I'm spending so much time on this with you right now is because if you don't know your part and your place and where you're at in the bigger cycle and your part within it and what you need to both stay stable and feel secure enough to continue to grow and let go, because we're doing both at the same time. We are in this massive transformation that you can't escape. I mean, you could go to sleep. You could put your earmuffs on and pretend it's not happening. You could choose to devolve or choose to join team greed and, growth that's like a cancer, because like cancer on the planet, because of your own fear and your own. And we all have these, right? This is not a judgment against any of you. Like, welcome to our club. We're doing the best that we can to stay awake and stay aware. Stay light, stay awake, stay aware. Like, that's the mantra. And do what you need to do to create a strong root system for yourself. Like, what are you rooted in? What's going to create that stability? So I guess we're kind of moving into this first piece. But I wanted to just presence that, like, okay, like, where are we in time and space and place? You always want to know that. So here's our first, I did all of these 3 in F's. So the first one is find your strength in the stretch. Find your strength in the stretch. So we're going to breathe a bunch here because I really want this to drop into your body. So take those words in again. Find my strength within the stretch. And I would encourage you to write these down. I'll try to remember and put them into the show notes. But you want to write this down as you're going through and setting your intentions of what you desire to achieve, what's on your plate for this year, and what you actually need. You want to keep these in mind. So here's kind of the deal about this. Let me give you the meta first. So every year, the year itself can be added up into a number. This year is 2024. That is the number 8. And so the number 8 in the system known as the tarot, which is not about future telling and, I don't know. It's not hoodoo, voodoo, you all. It's a deep archetypal system that helps us understand cycles, helps us understand archetypes, helps us get language and image back where we started for how to actually create in balance and harmony in a way in which the yin and the yang, the people and the planet, the feminine and the masculine, like it all can work together in harmony. It's a harmonium system is what it is. This is why in like the 12th and 13th century, it was illegal to basically have a tarot. You would get killed, dead, off with your head. Or they dumbed it down to become a card deck. The card deck is based on the tarot. And so, not that we need to go into the history of all of it, but it's one of those things that it's a powerful tool. And if you understand how it works, because it's connected to other things that is connected to the I Ching, it's connected to the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. It has a lot of deep meaning for those with eyes to hear and eyes to hear, eyes to see, and ears to hear. So the 8. So the 8, it's an 8 year. So the 8 in the tarot is called the Strength card. And it is, if you look at the card, oftentimes what you'll see in it is you'll see a person, and it's usually a woman, so it's the feminine, who's wrapped around a pillar. And to either side are the snakes that you often see in the caduceus. And in the caduceus, also those 2 snakes and that center pillar also show up in yogic wisdom in our bodies. So we have 3 core channels we have in the center of our body. It's called the Sushumna. The 2 channels on the left and the right are called the Ida and the Pingala. And it's also the feminine and the masculine that together, when they connect, rise up into an elevated level of consciousness that gives us the ability to create different solutions and realities than we've been able to in this banana pants duality reality that we've been stuck in for 2,000, 5,000, or 11,500 years, depending on how you count. Or if you think of the power spectrums that I talk about a lot and I work with, which is the infinity sign on its side, also known as a harmonizer. When you put those 2 things together, the masculine and the feminine, and you focus on the center, it elevates you into what I call elevated leadership. So, for example, the intuition is the feminine, the intellect is the masculine. Together, that rises us up into intuition or into wisdom. That's what we're doing right now. So there's lots of practicality to this. But what's important for you to understand about this is that strength card is holding us between the structure of what has been. And also it's dismantling that structure at the same time. So if you were to put your hands out in front of you, on the left is let go, release, heal, past. Like it's stuff that's crumbling and shifting and like, you know, this is the let go and transform. And on the right-hand side is the new, is the stepping forward, is the stability that we're in. So it's like we have this, like we want to hold on to stability on one side. Now that I'm thinking about, the stability is actually on the left. Stability is on that left. Stability is on the right. So you got the stability, the structures that you want to preserve, right? So there's the things that you're being called to let go on the left. And then they're coming apart, they're transforming. And just think of any part in your life: career, health, relationship, money. These could be things that are on the physical realm that are literally changing before your eyes, or they could be things on the internal realms. Remember, spirit and matter, soul and matter are not separate. They're connected, and this is what we're being shown. So it could be internal things that are calling for a shift in elevation. I call it evolving to elevate. There are parts of you, this is an inquiry, like what parts of me are no longer needed, can no longer take me to where I want to go. So what are the things inside of you? Habits, patterns, woundings, grudges, past traumas that you've had, big or little, protection mechanisms that you've put in place to navigate this crazy world, to manage stress, to deal with, you know, all of the things that happen as we are on this planet, that your spirit and your soul is like, hey, psst, just kind of like you're, you know, like an appendix that you don't really need in order to evolve and elevate. You actually have to remove these from your system, or at least shapeshift them in your system. So what you might have been doing and that might then apply to, like, how are you working? Where are you working? Where are you giving your energy to? What relationships and kinds of relationships just don't work for you, you know, anymore? And what's been going on in your health that maybe you've been, you know, just like maintaining it, letting it go. And you're like, I need to get to the root of this and I need to make a shift. And health is not just physical, it's body, mind, heart, and spirit. So just like thinking about that as you're going through this year, well, that shit's going to happen. Like, it's happening whether you like it or not. And you can try to paste it together and bubblegum it together and pull the sheets over your head and ignore it. Or if you're wise and you want to embrace your strength, you go into it, you look at it, you work with it. It's like clay. You want to get in there and you want to work with it and you want to shape it. And then you get support to go through that transformation, right? So the transformation piece is like, okay, like, let's preserve this and let's release that. And then, so how do you stay stable, right? When you're releasing And you're also trying to create the next, because that's the other thing that's happening in that right hand, which is about preserving and creating, is like, it's like, this is where you're being called. This is what's happening. This is like, there's a bigger reason for all of this, but we can't see it yet. This is still a transitionary year. It's the wood dragon in the Chinese methodology. The Lunar New Year doesn't start until February every year, so we're still in the in-between time. But wood is about growth. It's like bamboo. It's about growth, and it grows fast. And so there's a fastness to this. Think fire, dragon, transformation. Also, apparently I learned recently that all of the Chinese zodiac signs are real animals that we can see with our eyes, except the dragon, which, by the way, must mean that the dragon was alive at some time. I think about that with the phoenix, too. And I always say the phoenix is the counterpart to the peacock. The peacock lives in the realm of matter. Phoenix lives in the land of spirit. So the dragon is real. And I love dragons. I mean, they have such powerful protection energy. And so I don't think of it like the scary dragon who's going to come, burn me, but that dragon is going to support me and protect me to burn what is needed while I grow. And the great thing also about the dragon is that they have different elements. There's fire dragons and there's water dragons. And this year it's a wood dragon. So think of that in terms of like, there are things that can hold me and protect me that I can lean into my own strength with to support me as I grow. And if you were to put your hands out to the sides of you, I want you to imagine, and do this with me because it's a super good somatic piece, that both of these are happening. So it's almost like you're waving back and forth, right? And so you're being stretched one way, stretching to grow. And then you're being like stretched to let go and grow, let go and grow. And then feel that center channel, that pillar right down you. That's your body, your feet, your whole torso, all the way up through your head. How do you stay stable? That's why I do Pilates. What's going to keep you stable as you let go and grow? And that's the place of harmony. And really tuning in, this is an inquiry for you of what is the support and what is the structure that you can root into and that you can open to receive that's going to allow you to let go and grow this year in ways that are freaking going to stretch you. So just feel like your body sending down roots. Feel your shoulder blades relaxing. Take a swallow. And just see if you can tune into that center channel, that pillar of strength. And feel it rooted both in the ground like a tree, with deep roots going into the terra firma, to the earth, to the water. Water and earth support wood. Water helps us grow. Earth keeps us stable. So in a wood year, what is that structure, earth? And what is the support, water, that's going to hold you and help you stay centered and stable? And just see if you can really feel that in your root. Like, for real, y'all, this is not a mental exercise. This is really feeling in deeply. Like, let your sacrum, your bottom, your perineum, your root, like right at the base of your spine, really feel that holding you. There's a great wisdom teaching that says that safety can never be found in the mind. Safety can only be found in the body. Take a breath. And then also just opening up your heart, allowing your shoulder blades to relax, and feeling into the support all around you with people. What is the support and the structure that you can open up to? part of the big thing that we're breaking through right now is that the shit that you have to do. Sorry, Mike Chicago, you all is just kind of, she comes out. I'm going to keep her from the F-bombs, but she seems to be liking this bullshit thing. This shit that we have to do it alone, this bullshit that we have to do it alone. That is an imprint that we are all transmuting right now. So feeling your heart opening up, this is part of the strength. What's the support and structure you can open up to, lean into, that can hold you and also support you? This is a time of connecting, of relationship. The big theme for this year, connecting in relationship and allowing that relationships to be co-creative and supportive and co-generative and not keeping score, not, doing the 50-50 thing, but really allowing yourself. One of the reasons we don't feel so strong is because we don't open our hearts. And then lastly, just take a little swallow and just open up the crown of your head and let the light come in. Let light just fill your whole body and just feel yourself opening up and consciously opening up to whatever your cosmology is around the divine, finding strength in your connection to whatever you want to call the force if we were Jedis, divine, God, spirit, in the quantum field. It doesn't matter what you call it. It just matters you have a relationship. It could just be nature herself. But without that connection to something, grace is what I work with a lot. We talk about that all the time here at Feminine Power Time. Grace is a feminine power, and grace is one of the most powerful things that is available to us, but we have to invite her in. So just feeling the strength and that connection, and where is that connection strong, and how is that connection weak? And how might you be able to strengthen any of those connections so that you can really find stretch in the strength and the stretch? And maybe just even notice that, is it the material world, the spirit world, or my own heart? If you were to rank those from, strongest to weakest, where are you strongest in your strength and connection, practice, and where are you weakest? And I always like to say, lean into my strength to help me in the places of my weakness. Okay, so are you ready to find your strength in the stretch this year? Just go ahead and take an exhale there. Wow, we totally just painted the picture of the meta for this year, and then also really brought it into this first deep theme within yourself about how are you going to find your strength in the stretch. And that's the stretch that is happening in the meta, in the world. And this is, one of the pieces that's really important for us to embrace, is that while we don't have to be of the world, and we get to choose which worlds we actually want to participate in, because we know there's many different kinds of reality. This is why we never say, oh, I have to go back to reality. I mean, never, never, never say that. You all please just extricate that from your language library, because reality is what we co-create, and there are multiple levels of that. And so we're not outside of the world, we're not just sitting on a mountaintop somewhere or, I don't know, just locking ourselves up to all of this craziness goes away. But we can't also just be vibing into the vibes of the banana world as it crumbles around us and, people do what they're going to do. And so this first part of these inquiries that we've talked about today, I'm gonna kind of outline them all here for you, just kind of recap them. I'm thinking we have two more bigger themes to go into, but I think if we do that right now, it will short circuit all of us, and it also won't actually serve you. And this is part of the difference in how we work in the feminine and how we work in elevated leadership. It's not about cramming in content. It's not about how do I get the most efficient and I can get the most content and pop it out, and just give me the process and tell me what to do. This is why we spend 4 to 6 weeks in the Feminine Wisdom Way and in all my leadership councils, actually tuning into where we want to put our energy and focus at in the coming year. That's why when I work with teams, we have a multiple step process that we go through in January and February, so they pop out the other side in March, like clear about where to focus and what's in alignment for now. So this piece of that we practice here is really a practice of contemplation. And so I'm going to invite you to take these inquiries. They're in the show notes. I will also I'll also put them into the blog post or my podcast post on my website. So you can always go there to the podcast library and get them. And so I'm going to end us in that, and then we'll come back next week, and we're going to go more deeply into what's the internal parts, pieces that you can practically apply to your life and using the feminine and applying that, like moving through that in your life. And then also there's another part of the main theme for this year. I mentioned that it's 2024, which gives us access to a whole other energy field about how do you stand in your part and your place and shine your light and grow so that whatever it is that you're wanting to bring more of into your life and you're wanting to contribute, that you can do it from a place of ease and flow. That's what this next one is going to be about. But for now, what I want to do is I'm going to just share with you 2 things that are around and present supports and structures that are here for you. One that is you can participate anywhere in the world, and one that's going to be an in-person thing happening. And then I'll come back and just wrap us up in these inquiries. And then I would also remember always share this podcast with somebody and invite them into the inquiries with you. It's one of the ways that we do co-creative processes and conversate around it and talk about it. I'm in Austin right now with a dear friend of mine, and we just went to lunch yesterday in the middle of the week and got so much clarity by just sharing some of these inquiries with each other. So here's the 2 pieces of support, and then stay tuned because then I'll wrap us all up. Okay, when it comes to the support part and the structure part, on all 3 of those rounds, remember we have Feminine Wisdom Way going into our 9th year this year. It is a community of conscious, like-minded. This is for women who are daring to live and lead and succeed differently. And we're just doing the emerge process, the visioning process right now, which you can join us for, or even you're like, I don't really want to do the full visioning process this year. We'll have a smaller visioning process that takes part in February, and you can still join us for the whole year and be part of working with the cycles of the moons and the yearly cycles to really hold you in structure or really dive deep into what the feminine is. So you have language and practices and understanding in your body around them. And so you can learn more about that at femininewisdomway.com. And then I also wanted to let you all know that there are some in-person gatherings that are going to be happening. I don't have the details yet, but I will say that there's likely going to be an in-person gathering in Asheville the first weekend of May. There at the last weekend of May, the first weekend of June, I'll be at Canyon Ranch in California. And there are likely going to be our November one as well that happens at the end of every year, our Wisdom Quest. So there's some things popping on the East Coast, the West Coast, and possibly in the central area in November. We'll see. I'm on my way to Austin right now, and so I'm going to go check out a place there. And I just met with some collaborators yesterday about the one in Asheville over Beltane, May 1st, which is all about really aligning to your feminine and masculine power and getting in alignment to your design using creativity and fun and play. Oh my, let's have some of that this year, shall we? Okay, so that's just keep your eyes open. If you're not on my list, on my wisdom letter list, there should be a link in the show notes, but you can just go to ChristinaArylo.com and go all the way to the bottom, and there's a place to sign up for the wisdom letters. All right, dear ones, just go ahead and take an exhale. And these are the inquiries that I'm going to give you to find your strength in the stretch, finding your strength in the stretch, knowing that safety and stability and security cannot be found in our minds, but that that stability exists in our bodies. So what parts of you or how you are operating can no longer exist as you evolve and elevate? The habits, the patterns, the woundings, the past traumas, the protection mechanisms, the stress managers, the ways of relating. 2, what can you lean into to keep you stable as you stretch to grow and to let go this year? 3, What is the support and structure that you can root into, like really root into, to cultivate harmony within you so you can stay centered, body, mind, heart, and spirit? And lastly, number 4, where are you still trying to do it on your own? And what actions could you take or practices could you put in place to strengthen your connection to yourself, to grace, and to others who are aligned and supportive to where you are and where and who you are evolving into? All right, dear ones. So go contemplate that, see what emerges, share the podcast with somebody, and conversate on these. And I will see you back next week for part 2. Okay, much love.